You are sitting in a room full of people. They are laughing, debating, sharing stories, and vibrating with the chaotic energy of social connection. You are physically there, occupying space, perhaps even nodding at the right moments, but internally, you are thousands of miles away. It feels as though there is a thick, invisible pane of glass separating your consciousness from the rest of the room. You watch the interactions unfold like a scientist observing bacteria under a microscope, fascinated perhaps, but fundamentally detached. You feel a strange, creeping coldness in your chest, a numbness that worries you. You ask yourself, why can't I just be like them? Why does connecting feel like such heavy lifting? Is there something broken in my wiring? Am I losing my ability to care? Let me stop you right there. Take a breath. Lower your shoulders. You are not broken. You are not a sociopath in the making, and you are not losing your humanity. What you are experiencing is not a defect. It is a highly sophisticated biological and psychological strategy. It is a protective mechanism that Carl Jung, the great Swiss psychiatrist, spent a lifetime decoding. You are not cold because you feel too little. You are cold because for a very long time, you have felt too much. You are currently operating behind what we might call the emotional firewall. This state of detachment, this loner status that you have cultivated, is actually a sign of high self-awareness, but it is a self-awareness that has turned defensive. In a world that demands constant emotional availability, your psyche has pulled the emergency brake. Today, we are going to walk through the architecture of your mind to understand why this happens. We will look at the intersection of Jung's analytical psychology and modern neuroscience to explain why your brain has decided that isolation is the only safe option. But more importantly, we are going to explore how you can deactivate this firewall, not to become vulnerable and weak again, but to access a state of being that is far more powerful. A state where you can observe without absorbing, where you can help without bleeding out. There is a way to be in this world without being consumed by it. But to get there, we first have to understand the nature of your current retreat. Let's begin by looking at the mechanics of your exhaustion. Carl Jung believed that the fundamental difference between the introvert and the extrovert wasn't just about shyness or party preferences. It was about the direction of psychic energy, or libido. For the type of highly self-aware loner you are becoming, the outer world feels like a constant demand for a tax you can no longer afford to pay. Jung observed that when the object, the external world, the people, the noise, becomes too overwhelming, the subject, you, instinctively withdraws energy back into the self. It is a retraction, a retreat to the fortress. Modern neuroscience validates this Jungian concept with frightening precision. Consider your mirror neurons. These are the specialized cells in your brain that allow you to empathize. When you see someone cry, your mirror neurons fire in a way that mimics that sadness in your own brain. For the majority of people, this is a manageable background hum. But for you, the highly self-aware and sensitive individual, your mirror neurons are likely hyperactive. You don't just notice the emotions of others, you metabolize them. You walk into a room and you absorb the anxiety of your boss, the frustration of your partner, and the nervous energy of the stranger on the subway. You are a sponge in an ocean of oil. This is where the biology of the loner kicks in. Eventually, your system hits a tipping point. Your prefrontal cortex, the executive center of your brain responsible for regulation, recognizes that your cortisol levels, the stress hormone, are spiking dangerously high simply from social exposure. To prevent a total systemic collapse, your brain initiates a protocol of compassion bankruptcy. It deliberately shuts down the empathy centers. It creates that glass wall sensation you feel. You stop feeling because feeling has become too expensive. This isn't malice, it is metabolic conservation. Jung famously noted that there is no birth of consciousness without pain. You have felt the pain of the world. and now you are in the labor pains of a new type of consciousness. However, there is a trap here, a dangerous one. If you misunderstand this protective numbness, if you label it as who I am, rather than what I am doing, you risk solidifying the wall into a prison. You risk falling into what Jung warned was the shadow side of introversion, a detachment so severe that it severs your tether to reality, leaving you floating in a void of cynical superiority. You might tell yourself that people are boring, that the world is shallow, or that you are simply too evolved for the mundane drama of daily life. Be careful. That is the ego speaking, trying to justify the isolation. The truth is often more tender. You are simply tired. You are guarding a soft underbelly that has been bruised too many times. Let's look deeper into this strategic withdrawal. Jung spoke often of the persona, the mask we wear to greet the world. For most, the mask is a useful tool. But for the high-functioning loner, the mask has become heavy, like a suit of lead armor. You have spent years perfecting a persona that looks engaged, acts interested, and says the right things. You have been the therapist for your friends, the reliable rock for your family, the good listener. But inside, the real you, the self, has been shrinking, starved of oxygen because all your energy is going into maintaining the armor. The disconnect you feel, that jarring sensation that you are an actor reading lines, is the friction between your exhausted self and your heavy persona. Neuroscience tells us that maintaining a false facial expression or suppressing a genuine emotional reaction consumes a massive amount of glucose in the brain. It is literally draining your fuel tank. When you finally get home, close the door, and sit in the dark silence, that immense wave of relief you feel is the sound of the armor hitting the floor. But here is the crucial question, the one that haunts you at 3 a.m. If I drop the mask permanently, if I stop performing, will anyone still be there? Or is my value entirely tied to my utility as a listener, a helper, a shock absorber for others? This fear is what keeps the cycle going. You perform until you burn out, you withdraw to recharge, and then you guiltily return to perform again. This cycle is unsustainable. It leads to a fractured psyche. Jung argued that the goal of life is individuation, the process of becoming your true, undivided self. To do that, we have to renegotiate the terms of your engagement with the world. We have to move you from compassion bankruptcy to a state of sustainable observation. Think of it this way. Imagine a deep-sea diver. To explore the crushing depths of the ocean, they do not swim naked. They would be crushed by the pressure. They wear a pressurized suit. They are in the water, but the water is not in them. Currently, you are swimming naked in the emotional ocean, and you are drowning. So you are trying to climb out of the water entirely to sit on a dry, lonely rock. The goal of our journey today is not to keep you on the rock, but to build you that suit, to teach you how to descend into the depths of human connection without being crushed by the pressure of it. But before we can build the suit, we must look at the specific ways this withdrawal manifests in your life. We need to diagnose the severity of your detachment. Jung was a master of patterns, and there are specific archetypal signs that indicate you have crossed the line from healthy solitude into defensive dissociation. Consider the concept of the unlived life. Jung suggested that when we suppress our connections to others, the energy doesn't disappear. It regresses. It goes into the shadow. Have you noticed that while you are outwardly calm and detached, your internal world has become chaotic or vivid? Perhaps you have intense, vivid dreams. Perhaps you find yourself having imaginary arguments in the shower, winning debates that never happened. Perhaps you feel sudden, inexplicable bursts of rage over small things, a dropped spoon, a slow internet connection. This is the pressure valve whistling. Your emotions are not gone, they are just trapped behind the firewall, heating up. This creates a split, Externally, the cool observer. Internally, the boiling cauldron. The danger is that one day the cauldron explodes, or worse, it cools down completely into a permanent cynicism, a state where nothing matters and no one is worth the effort. That is the death of the soul while the body still breathes. To avoid this, we must examine a specific case, a profile that might feel uncomfortably familiar to you. Let us look at a character we shall call Elias. Elias is not a real patient, but a composite of the many souls who walked into Jung's clinic and the many who walk the streets today, invisible in plain sight. Elias is 34. He works in data analysis, a job that suits his need for logic and minimal human friction. He is polite. If you met him at a party, you would think he is a nice, quiet guy. He smiles. He asks how your weekend was. But if you looked closely, you would see that his eyes are scanning the exit signs. Elias has convinced himself that he doesn't need people. He tells himself he is self-sufficient. He spends his weekends reading philosophy, playing complex strategy games, or hiking alone. He calls this freedom. But Elias has a secret. When he sees a group of friends laughing at a table in a cafe, he feels a sharp, physical pang in his gut, a mixture of longing and nausea. He despises them for their herd mentality, yet he would give anything to feel that lightness, that unthinking belonging. He is caught in the tension of opposites. He is superior, yet he is starving. Perhaps you are like Elias. You have built a kingdom of one, populated by your thoughts, your theories, and your curated interests. It is a safe kingdom. No one can hurt you there. No one can drain you there. But it is also a silent kingdom, and the silence is starting to get loud. The tragedy of Elias, and perhaps the tragedy you are currently living, is that this isolation creates a feedback loop. Jung observed that the more we withdraw, the more the unconscious compensates by projecting monsters onto the outside world. The longer Elias stays in his room, the more terrifying and draining a simple grocery trip becomes. His brain, suffering from a form of social atrophy, begins to interpret neutral faces as hostile and casual small talk as an interrogation. The neuroplasticity of the brain works both ways. Use a pathway, it strengthens. Neglect it, and the path becomes overgrown with weeds. By avoiding the friction of human contact, Elias has not become stronger. He has become brittle. He is safe, yes, but he is fragile. One crack in the glass, one moment where life forces him to participate, and he risks shattering. If you feel this brittleness, if you recognize that your solitude has shifted from a source of peace into a fortress of fear, I need you to do something for me right now. I want you to stop the passive consumption of this video for just a moment. Pause. Take a breath. Scroll down and comment, "I am listening." Acknowledging that you are here, that you are open to understanding this mechanism, is the first crack in the ice. It is a signal to your own psyche that you are ready to stop retreating and start understanding. Now, let us analyze the specific architecture of your wall. How do you know if you have crossed the line from a healthy introvert to a defensive, frozen observer? Jungian analysis, combined with our modern understanding of behavioral psychology, points to three distinct markers. These are the symptoms of a soul that has gone into hibernation. The first marker is what we will call the post-social crash. This is not just being tired after a party. This is a physical, systemic collapse. You go out, you perform your persona, you smile, you nod. But the moment you leave, a wave of exhaustion hits you that feels almost like the flu. This is your body's cortisol crashing. During the social interaction, your brain was running on high alert, micro-analyzing every tone of voice and facial expression to ensure you were safe and accepted. You were not socializing, you were surviving. When the threat is removed, the adrenaline drops and you are left with nothing but a hollow ache. You might find yourself staring at a wall for an hour, unable to even watch TV, just needing the input to stop. This is your brain telling you that the cost of your persona is too high. You are paying for connection with your life force. The second marker is the narrator overlay. When you are in a conversation, are you truly in it? Or is there a voice in your head continuously commentating on the interaction in real time? Why did he say that? I should nod now, so I look interested. This topic is pointless. I wonder when I can leave. Jung would call this the dominance of the thinking function over the feeling function. You have detached your intellect from your emotions. You are analyzing the moment rather than living it. This overlay acts as a shield. If you are busy analyzing the person across from you, you don't have to be vulnerable with them. You are the scientist. They are the lab rat. It makes you feel superior, safe, and controlled. But it also guarantees that you will never feel the warmth of genuine connection, because you cannot hug someone through a microscope. The third, and most dangerous marker, is the value inversion. This is the final stage of the defensive loner. This happens when you start to convince yourself that the things you cannot easily have, intimacy, ease, belonging, are actually things you do not want. You look at happy couples or laughing groups and you think, they are sheep, they are asleep, I am the only one who sees the truth. This is a defense mechanism called rationalization. It is the fox and the sour grapes. Because the fruit is too high to reach, the fox decides the fruit must be sour anyway. This is the shadow taking over. It protects your ego from the pain of loneliness by converting that pain into pride. You become proud of your isolation. You wear your coldness like a badge of honor. But deep down, in the quiet moments, you know it is a lie. You know that this superiority is just a scar tissue over a wound that never healed. So, where does this leave us? If you identify with the crash, the narrator, or the inversion, does that mean you are doomed to a life of cold observation? Does it mean you must force yourself to become a loud, extroverted social butterfly to be healthy? Absolutely not. That would be a disaster. Jung did not believe the goal of therapy was to change who you are. The goal is to become more of who you are, but without the fear. The goal is not to tear down your walls and leave you defenseless. The goal is to install a door you can open and close at will. We are moving now toward the solution. This is the phase Jung called integration. It is the process of taking that cold, analytical, sensitive part of you, the loner, and giving it a proper job. Right now, your inner loner is a frightened security guard locking down the building. We need to promote him to the role of a wise advisor. The secret lies in shifting your internal stance from defensive shielding to conscious witnessing. The difference is subtle but revolutionary. Shielding is fear-based. It resists the world. Witnessing is power-based. It allows the world to pass through without sticking. Think of the difference between a sponge and a sieve. A sponge absorbs everything until it is heavy, rot-prone, and cannot take in another drop. That is you right now. You absorb the emotions of the room until you are saturated, and then you retreat to wring yourself out. A sieve, however, lets the water pass through. It acknowledges the water, it interacts with the water, but it does not hold the water. It remains light. How do we turn you into a sieve? How do we apply this Jungian integration in a modern, noisy world? It requires a technique we will call the Teflon mindset. To achieve this, we must first address the biology. We have to retrain your mirror neurons. Currently, your brain thinks that understanding someone means feeling what they feel. If your friend is depressed, you unconsciously decide you must become depressed to support them. This is a cognitive error. In the next section, we are going to learn the practical psychological maneuver to correct this error. We will discuss how to be present without being infected. We will look at how to use your narrator overlay, that analytical voice, not as a wall to keep people out, but as a tool to navigate social dynamics with surgical precision. You are about to learn how to walk through fire without getting burned. The key to this transformation lies in a distinction that modern psychology makes between affective empathy and cognitive empathy. Affective empathy is what you are currently doing. You are physically feeling the other person's emotions. It is a contagion. Cognitive empathy, however, is the ability to understand and identify what someone is feeling without physically adopting the state yourself. It is the difference between a doctor who knows you have a broken leg and a doctor who breaks their own leg to show you they care. The first doctor can heal you. The second is useless. Your goal is to shift from affective to cognitive. You must cultivate the benevolent dissociation. Here is how you do it. The next time you're in a social situation and you feel that familiar drain, that narrator voice in your head, the one we previously identified as a defense mechanism, needs to be repurposed. Instead of using it to judge, this person is draining, use it to investigate. Turn your social anxiety into curiosity. When someone is speaking to you and unloading their chaos, visualize yourself sliding behind a pane of one-way glass. You can see them perfectly, you can hear them clearly, but their energy hits the glass and slides off. In this state, you engage your prefrontal cortex to label the emotion. You say to yourself, "I see that they are anxious. I understand why they are anxious." By labeling the emotion, you move activity from the amygdala, the fear and emotional center, to the executive center of the brain. You stop being a thermometer, which merely reflects the temperature of the room, and you become a thermostat, a device that notices the temperature but remains distinct from it, perhaps even capable of regulating it. This is the secret power of the introverted intuitive that Jung spoke of. When you stop drowning in other people's emotions, you gain the ability to clarify them. Because you are not panicking, you can offer the one thing the world is starving for: perspective. You become the eye of the storm. People will be drawn to you not because you are the life of the party, but because you are the only steady thing in a spinning world. You offer a psychological safety that the loud, chaotic extroverts cannot. You become the keeper of the calm. However, a warning is necessary here. The integration of the shadow is never without risk. As you master this Teflon mindset, as you learn to observe without absorbing, you may feel a temptation to detach completely. The power of being untouchable is addictive. You might find yourself thinking, "If I can observe them from behind the glass, why open the door at all?" You must resist this absolute withdrawal. Jung warned that life calls us forth to independence, and anyone who does not heed this call because of childish laziness or fear is threatened with neurosis. Complete isolation is not independence, it is avoidance. The ultimate goal of your self-awareness is not to leave the human race, but to select your interactions with radical intentionality. You must build your inner circle. This is the final step of your evolution. You realize that you have a limited amount of social currency. Let's call it your soul battery. You can no longer afford to spend it on people who simply use you as an emotional dumping ground. You must become ruthless in your curation. This is not cruelty, it is stewardship of your own sanity. You need to find the few, perhaps only 2 or 3 people in a lifetime, who do not trigger your firewall. These are the people with whom silence is not awkward, but restorative. These are the people who do not demand a performance. With them, you can lower the glass. With them, you can engage in what Jung called the participation mystique, a connection so deep that the boundaries between self and other dissolve not out of fear, but out of love. For the rest of the world, you offer your kindness, your politeness, and your cognitive empathy, but you keep the door to the sanctuary locked. This is the balance. You walk through the crowd, armored but not closed. You see everything, you understand everything, but you only carry what is yours. So, return to the question we started with. Are you a highly self-aware loner? If the answer is yes, Do not despair. Do not wish to be normal. The normal world is often asleep, operating on autopilot, bouncing from one distraction to the next to avoid the very introspection that is your natural state. Your solitude is not a prison, it is a laboratory. It is where you are forging a consciousness that can withstand the weight of reality. The exhaustion you feel is the heat of the forge. The numbness was just the cooling process. Now you are ready to be tempered. You are the observer at the edge of the village. You are the one who watches the horizon while others dance around the fire. It is a lonely post, yes. It is a burden. But it is also a profound privilege. The world does not need more noise. It needs more people who are capable of sitting in the silence, who are capable of understanding the human condition without being destroyed by it. Accept your nature. Stop apologizing for your need to withdraw. Use that time to sharpen your mind, to clear your mirror, so that when you do step back into the world, you reflect the light rather than just absorbing the darkness. You are not broken. You are simply a prototype for a different kind of human, one who is built to endure, to understand, and to transcend. Walk your path, guard your energy, and trust the silence. See you in the next dimension.